Okay, well, aloha, Steve. Could you introduce yourself and tell us your name, where you come from, and where you live now?
Yes, so my name is Steve Kendall. I'm originally from Wisconsin, where I grew up. I lived most of my life in Alaska, and I've been here in Hawaii for about 10 years now. And I live in Ke'au, and I work up at Hakalau on Mauna Kea.
Mahalo. And so what is your vai, mauna, and/or ahupua'a, where you live or where you connect to the most?
Okay, yeah, I think I kind of jumped ahead and answered that already, but
Yeah.
I live in Ke'au. That's the Ahupua'a, I believe. I think it is. And then I
Mm-hmm.
work. Hakalau National Wildlife Refuge is covered by several Ahupua'as. It's on Mauna Kea, but the main would probably be Hakalau.
Hakalau, and that's where you connect to.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what is your job title at the moment and where you work at Hakalau, but what's your kind of job there and your official
yeah.
title?
So I'm the wildlife biologist at the refuge. Um, and yeah, I think we'll get into what I actually do for that. But there's only one biologist, so that's me. And I'm not in that position much longer. I'm about to retire from being the wildlife biologist there.
Congratulations, that's
Thank
exciting.
you.
And so, as a wildlife biologist, what are some of your roles and responsibilities, and what does an average day look like for you?
Yeah, so it's quite a wide range of things. My previous career before coming to Hawaii, I was really focused on primarily working with birds, but here as being the only biologist, my range of focus has gotten quite a bit broader. Still, the Hakalau Forest Refuge was created for endangered and endemic forest birds and their habitats. So I still, quite a bit of what I do is focused on birds. But we have a lot of endangered and rare plants and trying to restore habitat for the birds and other things. But also, I've supervised folks that are trying to protect those resources by managing pests such as feral pigs and non-native predators. Um, so an average day for me, there is probably no average day. Everything's a little different, but things I can do range from being a federal employee. I can spend a lot of time at a computer doing administrative stuff, but also analyzing data, summarizing data. But then the field work involves supervising the field crew is one thing, yes, the folks that are doing the on the ground work, but also supervising a couple interns that are doing some of the biological data as well. And then out in the field, that can range from anything from doing surveys to counting the forest birds, to monitoring nene, to doing vegetation plots, to monitor the habitat changes. So every day is a little different, and that's part of the fun of the job.
Yeah, it sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And what made you interested in being a wildlife biologist, or did you always know you wanted to be one?
No, I didn't necessarily always know that. So when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and I loved animals. I always wanted to be around animals. So I kind of knew that my future had, I hoped that my future had something to do with animals, but I didn't know a lot of options back then, maybe very similar to some of the kids that you'll be working with. Uh, so I kind of figured that I was going to be a veterinarian or something like that. As I got older, I realized it's not really the track I wanted to go on, the medical track. I wanted to be more out in the outdoors in the wild. So I think we might get to this in the next question, but if I might jump ahead here. But I had a couple teachers in in high school, actually, that told me, well, one of them told me about this whole conservation field I didn't even know existed. And it just really piqued my interest. And then he was in the agricultural taught ag classes, and there was another teacher that was in the biology program, and he was telling me about wildlife biology and all that. So both of them inspired me, and I decided, yes, this is the track I want to go on.
What was it about the field of conservation that made you want to go into it?
um, well, I love being outdoors. I have a real passion for animals and wild things, and there's a lot of challenges to those things right now, and I feel pretty passionate about trying to help them in any way I can. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Can you tell me a little bit about your academic pathway and what kind of degree or degrees you've pursued to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I have a Bachelor of Science, actually 2 degrees, one in biology and one in wildlife management. And then I came to Alaska and worked in that field for a number of years. And I went back to graduate school and I have a Master's of Arts in Teaching. I was going to be a biology teacher, but then I didn't really want to be in the classroom. I still wanted to be out in the wild. So I got back on the track of being in the, doing wildlife conservation. So yeah.
And so you did your bachelor's and then you got the master's of teaching.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, great. So you don't have a PhD, correct?
I do not have a PhD, no.
And do you feel that, like, I think it's just great for students to know that they don't have to get a PhD to work in like a biology research field. Could you talk
Yep.
a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole range of types of work you can do in conservation, all the way from well, let's say from just field work where you're doing like the couple of some of the people I supervise that do pest control work, which involves, you know, trapping and hunting pigs and building fence and spraying weeds with herbicide. And that really doesn't require any degree. So, you know, if you want to go more that route, but it can go all the way up to, yeah, you're more of a researcher, scientific studies and working in the field. Often that would require a PhD, then kind of anywhere in between. I had found in my career, you know, the master's degree did help me get my foot in the door, but experience was really important too. That, you know, each job that I applied for, they were looking more for what kind of experience I had than, but there, especially in the federal agencies and probably others, there are just some requirements for certain jobs that you must have a certain degree. Above a, so we are classified as GS levels, and I think it's above a GS 7. I think you need to have a bachelor's degree. So if you want to move up through the ranks and have a career, it's probably good to at least get a bachelor's degree. And if you want to go on to do more research and more technical stuff, a master's is good. And if you really want to get into it, a PhD.
You mentioned that experience has been really important. Were there any types of professional development experiences that helped you get where you are, such as internships or summer programs? And if so, what do you feel were the skills you gained there that you felt were important for the rest of your career?
Yeah, so I didn't really participate in too much like that. I would say, so where I went to the university in Wisconsin, it's well known for its wildlife conservation program. And they had a summer program where you would go out and do basically a summer field camp and do a lot of the type of work that is done in this field. So it's actually on the ground doing the field work. So that was very instrumental in kind of helping me decide what direction I wanted to go, what stuff I wanted to work with. But then right after I graduated, I was in a YCC program, Youth Conservation Corps program. I did a year of that in Alaska. That's what got me to Alaska. And again, kind of got my foot in the door. I made some connections with people. I got some experience in that. So yeah, a lot of it is just advancing in this. Well, there's several things I would recommend if you want to advance in this field. Is try to do volunteer internship programs, even when you're in high school, middle school, if you can. And there's lots of opportunities here in Hawaii. I'm sure that you'll tell them about them, but there's a lot of them here, including HYCC and Kupu, but there's weekend volunteer groups that go out and do outplantings and things like that. So, you know, some of the people that I've hired here, they've come up through those ranks. They started off in middle school just coming up to the refuge and planting trees, and we saw their enthusiasm and their interest in, and then they just kept on, you know, coming back or volunteering. My career path, I did a lot of temporary or seasonal jobs for many years, getting more experience. So that's really important. So it may not necessarily be a quick path to a permanent job, making a solid income, but if your passion's there, you just got to stick with it and keep doing it.
Definitely, that's great advice.
Yeah.
And so for now at your job, what's been your favorite part about the job and what's been your least favorite part?
Well, I think the favorite part is when I'm out in the field with the birds, listening to all the very special forest birds that we have here in Hawaii. Just anytime I'm out in the field working with the birds, that's great. And my least favorite part, I kind of hit on this earlier, is as a federal employee, we do have to do a lot of administrative behind the computer type stuff. Not so crazy about that.
And what advice would you give to your middle school self?
Well, probably for me, I was very shy, very introverted, lacked very little self-confidence. So I would say, if I could tell myself, hey, you can do anything you want, follow your passion, stick to it, do it. And I eventually figured that out, but it was kind of a long process. And so, yeah, just have confidence in yourself that you can do it.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's positive.